An Airbus A320, carrying 146 souls, is on final approach to Bangalore, India. In the cockpit, everything appears routine, except it isn't. The aircraft is descending too low, too fast. How long before the pilots realize the danger? And as the ground rushes toward them, will the very technology designed to protect them instead seal their fate? This is the story of Indian Airlines Flight 605. February 14, 1990. While the world celebrates Valentine's Day, ground crews at Bombay Airport prepare an Airbus A320 for departure. Flight 605 is a routine domestic journey to Bangalore, with passengers settling into their seats, unaware of the hidden danger ahead. In the cockpit, two seasoned pilots are running through their pre-flight checklists. Captain Fernandez, 46, is in the left seat, a veteran with over 9,000 flight hours. But today, he isn't just flying, he's being evaluated. This is the first of 10 route checks required for him to qualify as an A320 captain. Despite his experience, he has logged only 68 hours on the A320, and all as a co-pilot. Beside him sits Captain Gopuchkar, 44, an experienced Czech pilot with over 10,000 flight hours. His role is to assess Fernandez's performance. Though he has more time on the A320, 255 hours, including 212 as pilot in command, this aircraft is still new to both men. That's not unusual. The A320, a technological marvel, had only recently entered commercial service. On board are 146 people, 139 passengers, 5 cabin crew, and 2 pilots. At 11:58 a.m., nearly an hour behind schedule, Flight 605 lifts off from Bombay. Climbing smoothly to 33,000 feet, the aircraft cruises toward Bangalore. Passengers relax, unaware that their fate will soon be determined not just by the pilots, but by the very technology they rely on. To understand what's about to unfold, we need to look at the aircraft itself. The Airbus A320 was revolutionary. It introduced a fly-by-wire system, replacing traditional mechanical controls with electronic signals interpreted by computers. In older aircraft, pilots could physically feel how the plane responded. But fly-by-wire eliminated that tactile feedback, requiring pilots to trust their instruments and automation more than ever before. This shift was both an advancement and a challenge. While the A320's automation offered precise control and enhanced safety, it fundamentally changed how pilots flew. Fernandez and Gopuchkar, experienced aviators, were still adapting to this new paradigm. Would this cutting-edge technology prove to be a safeguard or an unseen trap? One of the Airbus A320's critical safety features was the Alpha Floor Protection System. We'll discuss this in more detail later, but for now, remember this. It takes up to 8 seconds for the engines to spool up from idle to maximum power. That delay will play a critical role in what happens next. For now, everything seems normal. The pilots settle into their routine as Flight 605 cruises toward Bangalore. But there's an added layer to this flight. This is a check flight. And while we can't know exactly how it influenced their decisions, the psychological pressure of being evaluated is a factor worth considering. Even experienced pilots feel the weight of scrutiny, and in a high-stakes environment like this, small decisions can have significant consequences. At 12:44 p.m., air traffic control clears Flight 605 to descend to 11,000 feet. The weather in Bangalore is ideal. Light winds, clear skies, and a comfortable 27 degrees Celsius, or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. A textbook arrival. Yet beneath the surface, unseen factors are quietly stacking up. As Flight 605 continues its descent, the workload in the cockpit increases. The pilots begin their approach briefing, planning for a VOR-DME approach to runway 09. This method relies on ground-based radio beacons and is familiar to both men, but then air traffic control offers them radar vectors for a visual approach instead. This is common in aviation. Radar vectors allow controllers to guide aircraft along specific paths, often simplifying landings. Pilots receive headings to fly, bringing them into position for a final approach. But, in this case, the change introduces a new variable into an already complex situation. The pilots must quickly adjust their mental model of the approach, and on a check flight, that kind of last-minute change carries extra weight. It seems routine, but this small shift will set in motion a chain of events that will push both pilots and the aircraft to the limit. The crew discusses their approach plan. They intend to cross 11 miles out at 6,000 feet and 7 miles out at 4,500 feet. Since Bangalore Airport sits at around 3,000 feet above sea level, their minimum descent altitude is 3,280 feet. In a non-precision approach like this, that altitude is critical. If they don't have the runway in sight by 3,280 feet, standard procedure requires them to abort the landing and climb away. It's a straightforward plan, but executing it properly demands precise energy management. At 12:53 p.m., Bangalore radar identifies Flight 605, now 42 nautical miles out. The controller provides vectors for the visual approach to runway 09. In response, the pilots adjust their altimeter to match the local atmospheric pressure, 1,017 hectopascals. A quick cross-check confirms their altitude, 8,500 feet. Air traffic control then clears Flight 605 to descend to 4,600 feet. The crew inputs this altitude into the Flight Control Unit, or FCU, the panel where pilots program the autopilot system. This unit allows them to set and adjust critical flight parameters, including altitude, speed, and heading during automated flight. At 1 p.m. local time, just before reaching 7 miles from the airport, the crew activates approach mode while the autopilot is still engaged. On the surface, this seems like a routine step, but it triggers a chain reaction that will prove critical in the minutes ahead. Approach mode automatically commands slower airspeeds when the aircraft is in managed speed mode. In Airbus aircraft, managed speed is a function where the flight management system calculates and maintains the most appropriate speed for each phase of flight, factoring in aircraft weight, configuration, and programmed speed constraints. This contrasts with selected speed mode, where pilots manually set a specific speed. For this approach, the system calculates a managed speed of 132 knots. As they continue their descent, the pilots make standard configuration changes, lowering flaps and extending the landing gear. Everything appears routine, but beneath the surface, a silent danger is taking shape. A key detail: the flight directors remain active. Flight directors are visual guides on the primary flight display, similar to a car's GPS. They show pilots the optimal path to fly using special markers on their screens. However, during a visual approach, relying too much on these cues can complicate the landing and distract pilots from their surroundings. It's like trying to follow both a GPS and road signs while driving. Too much conflicting information, creating potential confusion at a critical moment.
Runway in sight.
Fernandez calls out at 42 seconds past 1 p.m., about 7 miles from the airport. The autopilot is disconnected. It's a pivotal moment. The highly automated A320 is now under manual control for pitch and roll. Or is it? The next 30 to 40 seconds of the flight are crucial. As the aircraft descends through 5,000 feet, the auto-flight system prepares to capture and maintain the target altitude of 4,600 feet. However, other automated systems, including the flight directors and autothrust, remain active. Just 2 seconds later, Fernandez requests.
Okay, 700 feet, rate of decent.
The training captain responds.
Missed approach is...
But his voice is cut off by an ATC transmission. This brief exchange masks a critical misunderstanding. Fernandez had initially requested that the go-around altitude of 6,000 feet be set in the flight control unit, an important safety measure in the case of a potential missed approach. But the training captain doesn't acknowledge or execute this request. Instead, he offers vertical speed mode as an alternative, which Fernandez accepts. In the busy moments that follow, a critical misunderstanding occurs. The exact sequence of events becomes murky, but investigators later propose several scenarios. One possibility is that instead of setting a vertical speed of 700 feet per minute, the training captain might have inadvertently selected a target altitude of 700 feet. Another theory suggests a rapid adjustment of the altitude knob, first up towards the missed approach altitude of 6,000 feet, then quickly back down. Whatever the case, the result is the same. The aircraft unexpectedly enters idle open descent mode. It's a small error, a twist of a knob, a moment's confusion, but one with potentially catastrophic consequences. In idle open descent mode, the engines are at idle thrust, and the aircraft essentially glides, rapidly bleeding off airspeed and altitude. It's a useful setting for rapid descents at higher altitudes, but near the ground, it's a recipe for disaster, trading precious energy for a steeper descent. Now that the engines are commanded to idle thrust, the auto-throttle system ceases to maintain the target approach speed of 132 knots. This critical airspeed, essential for a safe approach, is no longer being automatically managed by the aircraft. But the pilots will notice this, right? I mean, as pilot monitoring, the training captain should be closely monitoring the aircraft's instruments, ready to call out any deviations from the expected flight parameters. His role is crucial in maintaining situational awareness and catching any discrepancies that might develop. However, at this stage, there are no immediate call-outs about airspeed decay or unexpected descent rates. The radio altimeter calls out 400 feet. 4 seconds later, it calls out 300 feet. It's at this moment the training captain finally realizes the aircraft's state, saying,
You are descending on idle open descent all this time.
But at this point, it seems the pilots don't understand the gravity of their situation. Neither pilot takes immediate corrective action, demonstrating a worrying lack of situational awareness. Just after the 300 feet radio altimeter call-out, another crucial exchange takes place.
You want the flight directors off now? Yeah, okay, I already put it off. But you did not put off mine.
This brief conversation reveals a critical oversight. The captain, under supervision, had turned off his own flight director, but failed to verify that the training captain had done the same. Because one of the flight directors remained active, it prevented the auto-thrust system from reverting to speed mode and maintaining the ideal approach speed of 132 knots. Leaving any of the flight directors active for a visual approach is a deviation from Airbus's recommended procedures, and it's yet another factor that will play a crucial role as this story unfolds. The aircraft was losing speed and altitude too quickly. In the next few seconds, the true state of their predicament would become horrifyingly clear. We're now seeing the dark side of automation dependency. The crew, so accustomed to the A320's sophisticated systems managing the flight, seems to have lost touch with the basic feel of the aircraft. The absence of moving thrust controls, a feature of the A320, has removed a crucial tactile cue that might have alerted them to the dangerously low power setting. The confusion in the cockpit reaches a fever pitch with this next exchange between the pilots.
You're on the autopilot still. Don't, it's off.
The pilots still seem to be confused about which automatic systems are engaged. This would have been a great time to simply go around. But unfortunately, they missed that opportunity. As Flight 605 continues to decelerate, the crew seems oblivious to their critically low energy state. The ground is rushing up to meet them, but in the cockpit, there's an eerie calm with an absence of cockpit warning sounds. Then, at approximately 135 feet above ground level, the aircraft's Alpha Floor Protection System activates. This last-ditch safety feature automatically commands an increase in thrust to maintain a safe angle of attack. It's the A320's final attempt to save itself and its occupants from disaster. Almost simultaneously, Fernandez finally recognizes the dire situation.
Hey, we are going down.
Fernandez immediately advanced the thrust controls to the toga takeoff go-around position. It's the correct action, but it comes far too late. The A320's engines, optimized for fuel efficiency, require about 8 critical seconds to spool up from idle to go-around thrust. These 8 seconds, which might as well be an eternity in their current situation, had already begun ticking away when the Alpha Floor Protection System activated moments earlier. Flight 605 impacts the ground, approximately 2,800 feet short of the runway, at a speed of about 113 knots. The aircraft had come down on a golf course adjacent to the airport grounds. Both engines and the landing gear are ripped off from the fuselage as the A320 slides across the terrain, momentarily becoming airborne again until finally impacting a 12-foot embankment with devastating force just outside the airport boundary. Now, a new horror emerges. The aircraft burst into flames, turning an already dire situation into a race against time for the survivors and first responders. Tragically, out of the 146 souls on board, 92 people lost their lives, including the 2 pilots and 2 cabin crew members. The investigation into Flight 605, led by the Indian Court of Inquiry, revealed that everything seemed normal until the final moments of flight. The cockpit voice recorder showed 2 experienced pilots working cordially together, following procedures and conducting routine checks. Yet, in the span of just 35 seconds, this routine approach would transform into disaster. The investigation's probable cause highlighted failure of the pilots to realize the gravity of the situation and respond immediately towards proper action of moving the throttles even after the radio altitude callouts of 400, 300, and 200 feet, in spite of knowing that the plane was in idle open descent mode. However, identification of the cause for the engagement of idle open descent mode on short final approach during the crucial period of the flight is not possible. While the investigation explicitly stated that the exact cause for how the aircraft ended up in idle open descent could not be proved, it does suggest a possible scenario. The training captain likely selected an altitude of 700 feet when intending to set a vertical speed. This speculative theory remains contested by the Indian Commercial Pilots Association, who point to possible A320 design flaws and note the flight data recorder's limitations in confirming such an error. The investigation revealed a critical 0.8 to 1.2 second delay between when the A320 safety systems trigger and activate. Tragically, it also identified 4 specific actions that could have prevented the accident. 1. Selecting 700 feet per minute vertical speed. 2. Switching off both flight directors. 3. Manually controlling thrust via toga. Or 4. Properly setting the go-around altitude of 6,000 feet. In response, Airbus implemented comprehensive changes to the A320 family, redesigning the flight control unit to make altitude and vertical speed knobs more distinct, enhancing flight deck displays and alerts for better energy state awareness and improving automation mode indicators. Though we'll probably never know with absolute certainty exactly what happened, Flight 605's legacy lives on in these safety improvements, making aviation already the safest mode of transport, even safer. This should never have happened. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything.